Hello, my name is Alexander Stephen Hahn. Most of you know me as Alex, and I imagine that if you're watching this, you also know me as Ash. And for the past several months, I have been running the NYU MTech Music Reviews blog. It's a pleasure to finally meet you all. Seriously, I'm so sick of having to keep up a secret identity, so this is a refreshing change of pace. I thought I'd introduce myself by doing a little bit of a Q&A with you guys. Lots of you had questions for me about, the blog, why I chose to do it this way, and so, I thought this would be a good way to do it. One of the frequent questions that I get asked is, why did you decide to do this anonymously? I just thought it might make things a little bit weird if people knew who was writing the reviews, especially because our program is so small and so many of us know each other personally. And I didn't want to be accused of, favoritism in the reviews, reviewing my friends' music and stuff like that. And for the record, I've tried to keep it such that, I try and stay away from writing reviews of people who I know and work with really closely. I thought that anonymity was just the best solution so that everybody would be happy. And moving forward, we're going to try and have a staff of anonymous writers on hand so that we can maintain objectivity and so that, things continue to not be weird. From this point forward, I'm probably going to start moving into artist interviews and doing more video content and stuff. So hopefully this is the start of a very exciting future for our blog. So I'm really excited. What inspired you to start this blog? So it was, I want to say 2 semesters ago when I presented this song in Collegium. It was called Desperately Searching / The Way You Love Me. I'm desperately searching for your love. It's a 2-part song. It's 8 minutes long. It was crazy. The response from the Collegium crowd was great, but I was actually going into it looking for really specific feedback on the mix because I had 300 stems in there. I'd listened to it so many times I couldn't tell what sounded good anymore, and I was just completely lost as to where I should go with it. And a lot of the feedback that I got from Collegium directly was not actually all that helpful. People were really supportive. I got a lot of, oh, that was great, that was fire, bro, and all of that stuff was, great to hear, but it didn't address the reason that I had for presenting that song in Collegium in the first place, which was I couldn't figure out how to mix it. And so a really big inspiration for this blog actually came from Rocky Delgado. They used to be a studio monitor on the 8th floor. Now they're one of the Dolan engineers, one of the funniest people I've ever met. And after that listening session, they were like, hey, I would love to give you some more detailed feedback if you would just send me the file. And I was like, yeah, sure. So I sent them the file, and they sent me back this really great long email with a bunch of bullet points in it pointing out specific things like, hey, I think your vocals and your snare drum are colliding at this part, and I think you could benefit from maybe scooping out a little bit of the high frequencies for this synth in this one specific part. And that was so helpful for ironing out the mix that I was like, wow, I really wish that we as a community had a way to have access to a listener's perspective on our music and receive detailed, helpful feedback from them. So that was one of the starting points of this blog. I think the other starting point actually came from CMS. I took it with Adam. Adam was amazing. We created this really great community space. I made a Discord server for the class, and it became a really awesome space to share music and get, really detailed, helpful feedback from my classmates. And I'm pretty sure I made lifelong friends in that class because of that experience. And so with those 2 things in mind, I was like, wouldn't it be really nice if we could have the same benefit that major label artists get of having easy access to other people's perspectives on their music? That was really the point of genesis for the blog. I was bored, 1 week last semester, and so I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna just figure out how to write a blog. And so I researched platforms, I decided to start a Blogger account, I picked my pseudonym, and I just started looking around for albums that came out, and I hit up this dude, this freshman I didn't know named Ethan Crowley, and I was like, yo, can I review this album? And he was like, I don't know who you are, but sure. And that's how it got started. And then, it was only a few reviews in when we started gaining lots of Instagram followers and people started talking about the blog, and I started hearing people, discussing oh, did you see that new blog? They reviewed this and that. The response has just been really great since then. We've gotten all sorts of really nice messages from artists who have thanked me for reviewing their stuff and, for providing helpful feedback for people. And I think that's all I ever really hoped to achieve with this. So I'm just really grateful that people enjoy what we're doing and, have been supportive of it so far. How do you settle on the name Ash? Ash is literally just my initials. It is such a bad pseudonym. I didn't really think about it. I would have put more thought and time and effort into picking a better pseudonym that was less obvious if I'd known that this blog was going to gain the community following that it has. I thought at most 4 people would read my reviews, like, you know, like the artist and maybe some other people who just happened upon the Instagram account. But like, I think we're hovering somewhere around 100 Instagram followers right now, which, considering how small our program is like a really sizable chunk of our community. So I definitely would have picked a better pseudonym had I known. I know at least one person found out because my NYU email literally spells out Ash, because those are my initials, and so like the pseudonym definitely could have used some work. And so like that's something that if I had to do this over again, I definitely would have picked a better pseudonym, because maintaining a secret identity with a name this obvious is not easy. Did anyone know it was you running the blog before you revealed yourself? The 3 people who caught on earliest were Sunil, Leon, and Kristen McCaffrey. They all caught on pretty early, and I actually think it was my refusal to promote my own music on the blog that kind of gave it away. Sunil was the first person to realize. He put it together because we were talking about the blog on the 8th floor, and I was trying not to say anything, and I don't know if I said something that gave me away, but he caught me in an elevator like later, and he was like, "Hey, so you know who's running that blog?" And I was like, "No, man, I don't know who it is." And he was like, "I don't really believe you. Like, you sure it's not you?" And I was like, "No, man, I don't know who runs it." And he was like, "Okay." And he didn't believe me. And so like, yeah, he was the first person to get it. I know in Leon's case, he actually did some galaxy brain level like deductive reasoning from a time I appeared during a Collegium listening session in order to figure out that it was me. It was some really impressive stuff. I don't know how he like connected all the dots and put it together, but yeah, Leon, you were right. It was me. What is your spirit animal? I've been compared to a deer before. I don't really know what that means. Maybe it's because I'm super anxious. Who knows? Are you a dog person or a cat person? I owned dogs growing up. I had 2 dogs. Their names were Bronte and Dash. They were both corgi mixes. They were adorable. And I love corgis. They're just like the cutest little balls of fur ever. I would consider myself generally a dog person because of that. My father was allergic to cats, so even though we always wanted a cat, we could never get one. But I would like to own a cat at some point. I'm just not in love with the idea of, you know, having to cat-proof my whole apartment and, you know, all this expensive equipment and stuff, you know. It seems like a lot of hassle, but I would love to own a cat eventually. Not right now, though. Who's your favorite artist? I don't know if this is asking for my favorite artist in MTech or in general, so I'll just answer both. My favorite artist in general is probably Queen. They were the first band that I can remember that really made me fall in love with music. I think I was like 11 when I first found their stuff, and they've been the artist that I keep consistently coming back to and going through their whole discography over and over and over again, because there's so much to love about it, and they do so many different things so well. They were probably my biggest inspiration for getting into music in the first place. Even now, like as I'm learning guitar, like my sound is very inspired by Brian May. Not that I can play anywhere near as well as him, because I can't, but they've continued to inspire my work in a variety of ways. As for my favorite artist in MTech, that's kind of hard to pick. But if I had to narrow it down to a few, I guess some of my picks would probably be Nick Wu, Third Ave, Dog Collar, and Kudu. Those are the ones that just come to mind immediately for me. I also will say that Anna's also pretty great. Stream my new single, please. I'm ridiculous. What was your favorite class in MTech? Obviously CMS is up there for me. When I took that class, I mentioned this already, but I'm pretty sure I made like actual lifelong friends. It was such a great space. I'm not sure who's teaching it now, but I can vouch for Adam Rockstar being absolutely far and away one of the best professors I've ever had. He was so supportive. He really pushed me to work with other people in order to get the best out of myself, and I think that that was, you know, one of the most profound lessons that I've taken away from MTech during my time here. In terms of practical knowledge and skill set, probably digital electronics. I was convinced that I was just not good with computers until I took that class. Professor Stephen Litt is amazing. He took the time to really walk me through C++, and I came out of it with a really comprehensive understanding of computer logic, and I built this little effects pedal that was actually really cool, and it sounds pretty decent, and maybe I'll use it in some music someday, who knows. How has working on this blog changed your perspective on music? I think now, like, at least when I listen to music made by people in MTech, like I try and put myself like in the artist's shoes and actively think about, okay, what was the artist trying to achieve when they did this? And I think that I've developed, like, I think a better understanding of the different ways that people work. Obviously, the quotes that I have artists send in, like when I review their stuff, has also helped a lot because I get to read, you know, about their process, and I get to read about how they chose to do their stuff. I've also gotten way more conceptual, and I talk a lot more about feeling, and I've gotten a lot better at articulating my own feelings and responses to stuff when I listen. I think you can see that happen in my reviews as well. Like, my reviews have gotten so much longer and more wordy than they were when I started. Like, The early editions of Single Spotlight were literally just like 1 or 2 short paragraphs per song, but now like each song gets like 4 or 5 paragraphs and they're like super long. So yeah, I've just started talking a lot more and I've gotten a lot better at articulating what music does for me specifically. What's your favorite microphone to use? This question really depends on context. Like, I'm assuming you mean like in a studio setting, in which case it's really hard to go wrong with a U87. Large diaphragm condenser, captures a ton of detail, has different polar pattern options, it's insanely versatile, use it on vocals, guitar, tried it on a saxophone once and it sounded amazing. Plus, like, when else are we gonna get to use one of those? Like, I don't know, I'm never gonna be able to afford one of those ever, probably, so I'm trying to enjoy it while I can. In terms of ribbon mics, the Royer 121 is seriously underrated. It's a ribbon mic, and it sounds absolutely crazy on guitars and guitar amps. It's just godly. If you were reviewing your own music, what personal enjoyment score would you give it? Oh god. I feel like it's really hard to have an objective perspective on music that I have so much of an emotional connection to because I spent time, making it. My first album is this one right here. It's called Mental Advisory. It's like a 2 out of 10 tops, probably a 1 out of 10. It's just like, the mixes are flat, everything's really muddy, the production is boring, the lyrics are weak, the aesthetic is like this really gross like blend of like pop trap that like does not suit me at all, but like everyone feels that way about their first project, I think. Like, I think it's just really hard for people to not look back at their first project and just hate it because like we're our own worst critics and we have so much recency bias when it comes to our music that like everyone's always going to think that their last single that they just put out is like miles and miles better from the old stuff. Probably the only reason that album is still up on streaming platforms is because there's one guy named Uriel from my hometown who still bumps the songs. He still sends me things like, yo, this song is on my workout playlist. Like, I remember when this song came out when I broke up with my ex and I cried to this song, man, and I can't take it down. Like, he's got memories with it. I can't possibly get rid of it now. I followed that album up with this album, Reflections and Reputations. That's probably like a 4 or 5 out of 10. This is the first album that had no covers on it, so it's all originals. I think the aesthetic is like slightly more interesting. It's like this like blend of like 80s R&B and like current alternative R&B, which is like very much like Weeknd inspired, but I think that suits my voice and my production style. As compared to the first album, the writing's a lot better, the mixes are a lot more polished. But I don't love my vocals on this album. I think like I sound like really overcorrected and I sound like a bad Weeknd ripoff. There's some creative decisions I don't love. I included like a rap verse on one of the songs that I did, and it's just like, it's such a bad verse. I don't know how it got past like my own quality control, but I don't know why I thought it was okay to put that out. But that's okay. We live and we learn, and the third album is coming. It's gonna be a pop punk record. It's gonna be a hyper pop record. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm working with a lot of NYU folks. I'm recording at NYU a lot, and I'm trying to push myself to get out of my comfort zone and play guitar and write songs in different ways and work with new people and do things I don't usually do. So I'm really excited for it, and hopefully it's going to be great. That's all the questions I got for you today, but I am, once again, so grateful to have been on this journey with all of you. I'm really glad that people seem to enjoy my writing and that the musicians I've reviewed have been grateful that I've taken the time to write about their music. So, as always, if you ever have any music that you've released that you want me to review, send it my way. You can find me, obviously, at NYU MTech Music Reviews at Instagram, or by personal Instagram at hanmusic_official. You can also reach us by email at nymtechmusicreviews@gmail.com. Send in your music. Let us know if you want to write for us. We're always looking for new writers. And I hope to be in touch with some interviews and some live concert reviews in the near future. Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. My name is Ash, or Alex, and I'm signing off. Talk to y'all later.